if you have a level of intensity in your workouts that you just cannot rise to meet every day, if the thought of doing a difficult workout is overwhelming day after day. Now, I'm not talking about, this is we're still on a roller coaster. So there's going to be days where you're just like, oh my God, I cannot do another hard thing today. But if that is happening day after day, week after week, and you can't get up for your workouts, definitely need to look at overtraining.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Kelsey.
And we got a brand new setup. See my brand new set. Get to sit in the same room and talk to you in real life. In person.
She's right
life.
over there.
See her.
I feel like we'll work it out better, but this is our first try, and I feel like we're doing because I would like to be able to.
New Mike's who dis?
New Mike who dis?
I don't even know you.
I don't
know you. That's Rory's favorite TikTok.
The fact that he recites TikToks literally.
I'm not proud of
every
that.
time. What are you talking about? It's adorable. He only does first of all, if you don't follow Constantly Varied Gear on TikTok, you need to because we're hilarious. But he only
You're hilarious.
He only recites TikToks that he sees us doing.
He's only allowed to watch the Constantly Varied Gear account, and not all of them because Isley.
Because
Isley.
Just because Isley.
The clam clapping videos. I mean, he can't read, but oh my God.
Every time I see that one, that reminds me of that Orbit commercial from way back when. You lint liquor.
You lint liquor.
Pickle you kumquat. You know the one I'm talking. That lives rent free in people's minds.
I think there's a lot of younger people that are not going to know what you're talking about because you're old, bitch.
Oh,
you old.
Damn, if I'm old, what does that make you?
Orbit lint liquor commercial? That's throwing
it's a classic. Rent free. That shit lives rent free in my mind. But I do want to, as you're tuning in today, I want to remind you guys. We'll just tell you, if you don't subscribe to our podcast, what are you even doing? Go subscribe right now and leave a review if you enjoy us every week.
I'm so glad that you remembered that because
never do. I was like, I'm gonna get it out right now when it's fresh in my mind.
Fresh in my mind. Yes, guys, if you love it, leave a review. We so appreciate it, and we always forget to ask you. So.
We also want to know topics that you would like us to cover because we have covered. I don't know what number we're at, 250. I don't know. However many podcasts we've done in the last couple of years. But if you have a topic that you would like us to cover, we love suggestions. So let us know about it.
Love suggestions. And also, there goes Val.
Just running by.
Val is...
At any moment at CVG, someone could just be running by and you're like, I don't know.
It's
I don't
just
question
normal.
It.
You don't even, you don't say what's wrong? You just assume that, oh, here she comes. She looks fine. Everything's fine. We're all fine. I am, I'm excited for our new mics. I'm excited for our new dresses. Guys, I literally am, the best thing to me about, and maybe we shouldn't say because they'll probably be all gone by the time this comes out and it's just going to make people mad.
It's okay.
You got to get it while it's hot, guys. You got to get it while it's hot. We released our limitless dress. And I'm never going back to picking out an outfit ever again.
No, the thing is,
it's a whole ass outfit.
It's a whole ass outfit, and you can just add little things that make it totally your own. But for me, especially in the warmer months, not having to put a whole outfit together is everything. You just you put it on, you step into it, you're done. Like, I don't even think about a bra. I got the whole thing. I'm like, am
The
I going to
whole
wear
thing.
sneakers with this or am I going to wear flip-flops?
You
Like, that's the
only have to
only thing.
choose footwear. It's
Yeah.
like that is the greatest luxury you can possibly have. It's just like I know what I'm wearing. I put a sweater on this morning because it's still Massachusetts, guys. I just put a sweater on for a school drop off, and I got like 3 moms being like, "Oh my god,
That's my sweater.
This is your sweater?
Yeah, that's definitely my sweater.
That's not your sweater, bitch.
100%. When you pulled up in it today, I was like, yeah, it's my sweater. I've been looking for that.
This is not your sweater. Maybe you borrowed it from me.
No, that's 100% mine.
Admit that sometimes you'll borrow something from me, keep it
And think
so
it's mine.
long.
Yeah, for sure.
Then I'll be like, oh, that's mine. Can I have it back? And you'll be like, this is mine. And I'm like,
I for sure do that. If you have ever, anyone who has sisters is like, yeah,
well,
this
yeah.
is a thing. They know it. It's like, fine. But there are some things that you're like, no, I know for sure that's mine. And that sweater is one of them. I would also like to remind you guys, if you're not watching us on YouTube,
it's a real treat.
It's a real treat. You can
You're
see
missing my sweater.
all go down. And the fact is that like we often will show up in the same outfits and not plan to, but like today we both have the dresses on, but like mine's the shadow skull and hers is the solid black. So they're different.
That's different. Plus, how you
Similar.
style it is totally makes it look different.
I got green sneakers.
Look at those green sneakers. Oh, nice squeaky chair. Look at those greens. And you know what? You can do that. You can show your green sneakers because you got shorts on underneath.
That's everything.
That's everything. If I want to just get right up here like this, I can do it because I have shorts. And I will just say that I know that there's going to be some disappointed people if you missed out on Limitless, but you gotta get it well tied.
We gave fair warning.
I feel like we did. I mean,
but at the same time, we also didn't know. So here's the thing: we do things better than everyone else, and I am unapologetically going to say this because you know why? I was telling Mark this the other day. I literally wake up, and this happened to me the other day. I'm going to share this. In the middle of the night, sometimes I have dreams that take over. I'm a little bit of a talker in my sleep. That happens. And it's embarrassing if you're not alone. So there's that.
Oh. Well, let's hear more about this. I'm here for it. I didn't know it was this kind of podcast.
I was woke up measuring things at the bottom of a bed with different parts of the sheets. I'm measuring busts. I'm measuring inseams. I'm talking to Mark and Ben, which can be very off-putting
to whoever's next to you in the bed.
Who is not
who's
either
Mark
of those
and
names.
Who's Ben and what are you measuring? And how do I stack up?
This is what I'm saying. Like I'm saying like a measuring tape. And so that is very off-putting. Like that is very off-putting. But the thing is that level of obsession when it comes to things that we're putting out leads to limitless, amazing dresses. And like that we will just obsess over them until we feel like they're perfect.
I can't tell you, how many edits we do. I know that this fabric is to die, but I do feel like it's important that people know, obviously there's a lot of companies out there selling clothes and, the process of creating and buying and whatever, a lot of people are getting a product from a manufacturer and going like, yeah, that's good. That's good enough. We go back and forth with like, I can't even tell you how many edits we made on this to like, it's never good enough. It's just there's always something that can be improved. And there's always something that we're like, but what about for this person who might need it for this? And what about this type of body? And how can we make this something that makes women just feel incredible?
That's the goal. That's why we work so hard though.
And so when we come out with something, you can be sure that our full heart and soul is into it. And I think that, I don't mind tooting my own horn on that because
That's what I'm saying. And I feel like we're always very conservative about things like that, but like unapologetically being like, this is the best.
I worked so hard on this
Mhm.
to ensure this for you guys. And that is, that's really just like everything our company is built on, because how you do anything is how you do everything.
That's true.
So
On that note, though, if you're a first time customer,
oh, we're doing that?
yeah, if you're a first time customer, text podcast to 22896 for 10% off.
Yeah, get yourself some of the most hard work, the clothes that have been through the ringer.
Yeah, I feel bad because we did talk up the dresses, which are probably not there. We didn't plan to do that. We just, when you go with something, you just roll with it,
Podcast, one word, to 22896. And if you are a first time customer and you never tried CVG before, you are getting 10% off today. So enjoy that. And on the note of overdoing things, sometimes it's a good thing to be proud of overdoing things, but we talked about several topics for today's podcast. And one of the things that we talked about even before we got to this was like, damn, people be so proud of overdoing everything to a point where it's like bringing them down the drain. Oh, I don't even sleep. I sleep 2 hours a night because I'm so productive. Oh, I'm so stressed. Listen to all the stressors that are in my life. And it's almost like we are in this race to be like the most stressed, the least rested, and all of these things are kind of like badges of honor. And
the most overworked.
I work, 80 hours and I don't have, and that's like wow, good for you. Like, when it comes to training, we see a very similar thing where people get into ruts where they think that they are, earning that badge, that medal of honor by like, I go to the gym 7 days a week, no days off. I'm sore every day. I literally am breaking my body in half. And like, yeah, because like abs and squats and stuff. And it's almost a race to the bottom because that mentality is only going to yield bad results. And we want to talk today about overtraining.
Yeah. One thing I want to throw out in normalizing is to stop normalizing the language around I only get 4 hours of sleep, I only get 3 hours of sleep, I work, I'm such a hard worker in my job. I'm so stressed. Like those two things do not go together. And I would love to start to normalize for everyone and stop like kind of giving each other or ourselves these badges of honor based on how much we're suffering. When I say something out loud, like I, only slept 3 or 4 hours last night, I have gotten to a place where I'm like, Kelsea, that's bad. That's not good. You're moving away from your goals. You're not working harder. You're not working smarter. You are moving away from your goals because you know what? I'm showing up to work less productive because I'm foggy. I don't have the same energy. I'm irritable. So the people around me get a more irritated version of me, which is never a good thing when you're working with a team. And my workout is not getting the same effect as I would like it to. So when it comes to overtraining, something that or when it comes to overdoing at all in your life, what I really like to talk about is the fact that it is not getting us closer to where we want to be.
Listen, it's a pie, okay? So if you take a slice out, there's only so much pie left. You don't have unlimited pie and you have to take it from somewhere. So if you say, I'm going to work so hard on the new limitless dress that I'm only going to sleep 3 hours a night and I'm going to spend the rest of the time working on the stress and measuring in my dreams. That's going to come from somewhere. So you better pay up. It's going to come from your training. It's going to come from your productivity during the day. It's going to come from your relationships. You're going to be pulling that from somewhere. And when you like kind of make that agreement, I think it makes you decide a little bit harder and really think about if you want to take from those other areas, because listen, there's not enough pie to go around for you to be doing every single thing. And when it comes to overtraining, where we see, this go wrong is injury is the most common one. And it's so hard and painful to see someone get really excited about a health and fitness journey, go really hard, and then get themselves hurt, and then kind of fall into this, well, if every single time I try I get hurt, what's the point of trying? Now we're like associating exercise and movement with something negative, and injuries are one of the biggest signs that you're overtraining, especially the nagging ones. The shoulder that never really gets better, the knee that always hurts in the first couple miles of the run. Those are the kind of injuries that if you continue to ignore and continue to overtrain, they're going to become there. It's going to stop you at a certain point. If you don't listen to your body now, your body will make you listen at a certain point.
Well, I think when it comes to talking about some of those nagging injuries and the fact that there's only so much pie and you have to take from other places. If you are overtraining or if you are continuously training through injury, you are not spending the time on some of the things that could be helping the recovery of your knee, of your mobility, the shoulder. If you're moving well, we've said this over and over. When you are moving well, you are less likely to become injured, right? So if you are moving well, that is dependent on a ton of factors. And one of them, of course, is the mobility of your shoulders, your joints, your hips, your knees, everything. So if you are spending so much time breaking your body down and not enough time building it back up and doing those things where you're really caring for your body, then we're way out of balance, right? So you just are continue to break it down, continue to break that knee down, and spend no time building it back up and no time looking at all of the muscles around it, all of the movement around it. Is it tracking correctly? Are my hips too tight so I can't track correctly? Like, are my calves continuously pulling on it? Are my quads continuously pulling on my knee? Hi, Kelsey.
Describing myself, so it's getting weird.
But you're taking it from those places, and that will often lead to that type of injury.
So, if you are wondering if you're overtraining, listen to some of these signs and see if you can identify yourself. You got those nagging injuries, those areas of your body that never seem to feel 100%. Prolonged fatigue in your training. If you are showing up every day to the gym super exhausted and you're leaving super exhausted, workouts are okay, first of all, every day is not going to be a great training day. I mean, we're very clear about the fact that this is, this is life, okay? We're not happy every day. We're not energized every day. We're not going to have a great session.
Human experience.
This is the human experience. We're on a roller coaster, guys. So, you might be in a dip, but roller coasters click back up. And if you're finding that your roller coaster is never clicking back up, if it's just day after day after day of fatigue in the gym, poor workouts, not leaving feeling better than when you came in, right? That's a real clear sign that you're overtraining, because you may start a session, feeling like shit, moving like shit, whatever, but ending it like, wow, okay, I've got those, the energy burst, the mobility burst. Like, if you're not experiencing that and you're like, I can't remember the last good day I had at the gym, we're balls deep in overtraining.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. One of the things I like to talk about too is performance decline or plateaus, because I think when the goal when most people are overtraining is to get better, to get stronger, to get that body composition that they're looking for very quickly, and it leads to some type of overtraining. But the thing about this is, and I wanted to make sure I talked about this because I've been here, you will hit a plateau or even start to decline when you are breaking down your body just too much. And you're like, well, I'll just do more, I'll get better. Doing more does not equal getting better. And that's something that you really please believe me. you may need to find it out by yourself, but it does not mean you're going to get better. And I think one of the things, like, this had happened to me when I was trying to be really competitive, is I said, I'll just work harder than everyone else. And my goal was to build more muscle. To build muscle, specifically,
Got
you
some
need
bad
to
news here.
get some bad news. You need to stop moving as quickly. You need to make sure you're eating way more than I had anticipated and taking appropriate deload and rest days. Now, when you have a goal to get better, those things seem like they're further down on the list. You think like, well, I'll just like lift more and more frequently, like I'll just hammer it in, right? That's actually not what's going to happen, because in order for your muscles to get bigger, to get stronger, they have to recover. So if you continue breaking them down, you're only going to break them down and not build them back up.
If are tracking your workouts and your performance, which we highly recommend as a way to really understand the state that your body is in. If you are tracking your performance and you are seeing declines or plateaus that are lasting for long amounts of time, we need to address the fact that there is some overtraining aspects there. And it could be a number of things. It might just be a small thing that you need to change up. It might be a big thing. But if you aren't seeing consistent improvement, and I'm not talking about every day's a PR, I'm talking about.
I want to make that very clear too, because we have unrealistic expectations for how many times we should be hitting a personal record. Like, if you are very new to training, you might hit, PRs very frequently. And it's awesome to see. It's like super cool to be around. If you have been in the game for a little bit, you're like hoping for one a year.
And that's fine. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you are overtraining if you're not PRing more than once a year. That means you're seasoned, but you are going to still PR in other areas of your training, in that you are noticing that your times are getting faster, your runs are getting faster. There's a number of factors that we're always testing in training. Your recovery is getting quicker. Like, those are all ways to PR, right?
Your everyday energy is just getting better. And that was some of the so someone actually DM'd me on Instagram and asked about this and said, have you ever talked about your nutrition on the podcast? Because it seems like you have so much energy throughout the day. One of the things that I wanted to bring up when it comes
that's
to
energy.
So also, I have ADHD. It's a lot to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Looks like energy, feels like ADHD.
Psychotic. But one of the things that really, when it comes to overtraining and you feel yourself having that lag all the time, and you really are not experiencing some of those bursts of energy that you really should get, not every day, but you shouldn't be going weeks and being like, I've not had that burst of energy. Like, that's too much. So if you're feeling like, I'm never feeling like energized and like I'm having a good day, I'm having a good workout, we need to really pause and look at some lifestyle choices that are going on there, and figure out why you're so depleted all the time and where we can make adjustments.
One of the things that I think is kind of interesting is when it's like opposite day, when you're like, I'm so tired, but I can't sleep. And why is this? And I think this is a lot of people. And there's a number of reasons behind this, but if you are falling into a category of overtraining, this might sound like you. You might be having a very difficult time getting to sleep, staying asleep. Your quality of sleep is trash. And this is just simply because your cortisol is just so high in your body and it's never really recovering, and it's going to show in your sleep. And so a lot of people that are overtraining are actually suffering from insomnia and sleep deprivation. And what is a horrible wheel about that is that, of course, then you recover less because sleep is where all the recovery is done. And then you start the next day less recovered. You're still overtraining. You're getting a shit session. Then you're not sleeping again. So it's like, it's a very, it's a difficult wheel to be on. But if you're having issues with your sleep, you definitely might, there's two extremes, right? There's a lot of time in which people are not getting enough movement and stimulation, and that's why. But it can also,
and that's why they get into that, like, body in motion stays in motion. A body that is not in motion is going to be less likely to start moving. Like, you get into a pattern where you are in a sedentary lifestyle, and it's really difficult to get moving from there.
yeah. But if you are constantly wondering why that, you have, like, you feel like I've got a great fitness plan down, I've got my nutrition, I just can't sleep, you might need to look at overtraining. And I just want to talk one more thing about adrenaline fatigue, because anybody who is putting any level of intensity into their training sessions, and we know that intensity is definitely a necessary piece to fitness and progress. If you have a level of intensity in your workouts that you just cannot rise to meet every day, if the thought of doing a difficult workout is overwhelming day after day. Now, I'm not talking about, this is we're still on a roller coaster. So there's going to be days where you're just like, oh my God, I cannot do another hard thing today. But if that is happening day after day, week after week, and you can't get up for your workouts, definitely need to look at overtraining.
Yeah. Yeah, the last thing with that too is just an increase in muscle soreness and not being able to recover. Like, there's a certain amount of muscle soreness that is appropriate and that is expected throughout the week, and then there is a level that is showing, is your body screaming at you that you're not recovering. And there are several things that we can look at from a recovery standpoint as to why you're not recovering, but the fact is that you're not recovering at the same pace as your training. So we need to adjust one of those things, and sometimes you might just need to look at your recovery and keep your training the same. Sometimes you might need to dial back your training a little bit to look at more of your recovery. And when I talk about recovery, that includes nutrition. Massive part of recovery is nutrition.
I mean, that I just walked by Isley, who had a heating pad on her quad, and I said, "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" And she said, "Oh my God, I know. I'm just always sore. I just live my life sore." And I said, "You're about to feel targeted, because I'm going in there to do an episode about the fact that that is not normal and that is not okay." And the next section is what you are doing to yourself. Isley, are you listening? What you are doing to yourself by living in a constant state of sore where it's like uncomfortable to sit without a heating pad. Okay. We need to just talk a little bit about what the effects of that are, because you're not just going to take all the pie. Your immune system is going to be compromised if you are overtraining. So, putting your body under constant stress is just going to lower its ability to fight off certain things. And, I think that just coming out of the season that we were in, I mean, everybody,
Massachusetts is
oh,
rough.
thank God, Massachusetts in the spring. It's just like one big germ. It's just like everyone, you sick, you're sick. I just got done being sick and I'm going to get sick again like tomorrow. And, we know the importance of keeping your immune system high and function firing on all levels. So overtraining is going to be the quickest and easiest way to kill your immune system. So if you're feeling like you're constantly getting sick.
Well, I do want to say too, when it comes to not last thing, but when it comes to overtraining and you think you're getting closer to your goals, when your cortisol levels are at a prolonged state of just staying high for a prolonged period. We should have spikes and they should come back down, and that's how your body gets your adrenaline and gets to recover, and then you get those spikes of endorphins. Like all of that is very good, but the idea for that to be able to work is that it has to come back down. So if your cortisol levels are staying at an increased rate for a prolonged period of time, some things are going to happen. Your hormones are going to react, your body comp is going to react. So like when you're cortisol, increase in cortisol is triggered by stress. So an appropriate amount of stress is absolutely encouraged and appropriate for your body. But there is a certain level that is not. It's like running from lions all the time, right? You can't continuously run from lions. But if your levels stay high for too long, your fat storage is going to increase. And that is generally a lot of people who are in the gym and have some body comp ideas of what they would like to achieve, or like maybe that is going with their goals, maybe it isn't, but like it's not good for your body either way to keep that at a high level. And when your hormones start to react, you can have different reactions, right? So like your skin can react, acne, your mood is probably one of the biggest ones, and one that you will kind of see yourself snapping a little bit quicker, or being a little bit more impatient with people, or just like feeling down for a little bit longer periods of time because your hormones are all over the place.
That's me when I don't exercise. But
Yes.
I don't have a problem with overtraining these days because I'm just happy if I can get in a couple sessions a week. But I think that's a really important point. And obviously, the be all end all is that eventually, if you continue to overtrain, you're going to get hurt to a place where you can't train anymore. And that is always, the biggest bummer, because whenever that does happen, you think back and go,
I saw the
why?
telltale signs. Like
I
that's the most
saw
frustrating
it.
part for me is I know that like I will, it'll be like, excuse me, like knocks on the door. Like my body's like, excuse me, Kelsea, and I'm not paying attention to it. And then I have something that sets me way back and I can't even train that day at all. And that's when you're the most frustrated with
Or
yourself.
that week or that
Or
month.
that week. Yeah.
Or now, like, you could be facing down a surgery now because of it and be out for 6 months.
And when you really are honest with yourself, is like you knew, like you had those warning signs and you didn't pay attention to it. But I really want to move into like how we can correct this, because if you've identified yourself in some of the things that we've talked about and you're like, okay, I get it, but how am I going to make some adjustments to this? And I think one of the things that we, when we think about overtraining, we kind of like, we go towards the, gym rat, the CrossFit, like you think that. But when you're overtraining something very specific, runners, looking at you.
We're speaking to you now.
Where you are doing repetitive movements over and over, you're essentially overtraining that one movement. So you might be thinking to yourself like, well, I'm only training 5 days a week or 3 days or whatever it is, but for my body, I am doing the same thing over and over and over, and I'm starting to feel some of those things that you're talking about. I'm starting to feel some of those like nagging injuries, some of those knee pain, or a lot of runners have the plantar fasciitis, where your foot starts to just like be all set with the impact.
I'm
that
good.
you yeah like
I'm good with the pavement. I'm going to need a cushy life from here on out. And, the thing about repetition and training for sport is that it's so necessary to get a certain amount of repetition in, but it's got to be balanced. So you can be overtraining, a general overtraining where you're just like breaking down your body and it can no longer make progress, where it's just overdoing it. Or you can be overtraining, like you said, where like you might be only running 3 days a week and you say, how is that overtraining? I'm only training 3 days a week, but I'm doing the exact same movement for all 3 of those days, and I'm not counteracting it with any strength work, with any, mobility work. And that is a form of overtraining as well. So you got to be on the lookout for both of those, constantly varying your movements, especially when it comes to sport specific training. If you're training for a marathon, you absolutely need to be doing counter counterbalancing exercise that is not running on those same joints. Constantly varied will save you from overtraining, and it will allow you to do more days a week or more in your sessions, and have it be better quality.
I also say too, for a lot of people who are going to be in the gym, you should not be in the gym more than 5 days a week. And there's a lot of different people who will come back and say like, no, I'm not having the same impact. I'm doing different things, but you're still in the gym 5 days a week. And I am going to be always one of those people who are going to say, when we talk about our mental health, when we talk about our physical health, we have to talk about our mental health too. And being in the gym more than 5 days a week is not good for you from a mental health perspective. Get on your sixth day, go for a walk, go for a run, get out and do something different. Maybe you go to yoga, maybe you have a stretch, maybe whatever it is. Maybe you go for a bike ride, swimming. I was doing for a while. I don't enjoy swimming, but it actually felt really, really good for my body because like that type of movement was very different than the other training days. It didn't have like a load. It was always like very stretching out, like getting in the water. It was a totally different stimulus. It was really, really helpful, but it's also really helpful for you to take a mental break and get some perspective on your time in the gym, how effective it is, leading to how much time you should be spending in the gym.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. 5 days a week of training, absolute max. And that's not to say you can't be active 7 days a week. You can be active, but you should not be training more than 5 days a week. And I'll go up to bat on if anybody anywhere on that. Professional athletes should not be training more than 5 days a week. You can do other things, and honestly, it will just enhance your training. Like you said, like swimming, there was so much endurance and different
Hiking, rucking,
muscles.
getting outside. Yeah.
It's so important. On that note, you shouldn't be in the gym for more than 75 minutes. Okay. There is no training session that is productive beyond 75 minutes for most people. I really and I was talking about this with you because I was like, I don't know if she's going to let me say this because her sessions are longer than 75 minutes. And I was like, I think they should cut it off. And I was like, what do you think? And Kelsea, you said to me, like, you know what? I totally agree. I'm sports specific. I want to do this, as a profession. I want to compete in this sport. And anything over 90 minutes, not appropriate. My brain has left the building. And I cannot advocate more for the fact that if it's taking you longer than 75 minutes, the intensity is wrong. Something is wrong where you are going through the motions and it's no longer productive. Everything that you need to get done, you should be able to get done in an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I had said to Rachel too, is like even being very sport specific, like over 90 minutes is just not appropriate. Like it just your attention to the things that you're doing in a purposeful way just is not there. And that's even like you're there for it, you're there to train, your mind is in it, you are like very dedicated. But the quality of what you're doing beyond that point is losing it.
Just go home. Just go home because your time is better spent, working on your meals for that day, your mobility, your hydration, rather than, I'm just going to be here longer and think that osmosis will, what I've seen so many people get injured doing that shit because they're like, I'm going to spend 3 hours at the gym. And after 60 minutes in, their brain is like totally somewhere else and they fail a lift and get themselves into trouble because you're not there.
And for longevity, right?
Like, yeah, it's got to fit into your life. What is going to be longer than 75 minutes, 5 days a week and really fit into your life? I mean, we got to like do shit. We have like cars and kids and like there's shit to do.
Yeah. One of the things like I wanted to bring up with that too was just like when you start to think about the time that you're spending at the gym and what you can be doing, or this is where I was going with that, sorry. That trusting yourself that some days when you show up that maybe your programming or like the time you had spent there that you plan to spend is just not where your body's at today, and to a certain point like you have to start trusting being in your body and what it needs for that day. And some I have been in a training session where I've been like, I've started feeling things over and over. I've started getting frustrated. And on some of those days, I'm going to try again and I'm going to work through it. And some of those days, it's time to go home. And you need to know the difference between the two. And you're not going to get it right every time. That's something you learn as you go. But sometimes you got to call it and not have someone call it for you. You just got to call it and say, like, my time right now is better spent in the bath. that's what
This is sounding oddly specific, and I'm just going to assume that's just a coincidence. It's probably just a coincidence. Sometimes you got to call it. Sometimes you got to call it. And I think that knowing, that you have permission. You're a grown-ass person and you have permission to call it.
You could call it. You could give yourself permission to go at 70, 80%.
Well, wait, because that's the last thing.
Oh, yeah.
Is how to avoid, overtraining and correct your overtraining is you got to vary your intensities. Okay. We are not going at our perceived rate of exhaustion of 100% every day. I'm not even saying like, oh, you can't train at 100% 7 days a week. I'm saying you can't train at 100% 5 days a week. Okay. You cannot strive to train at 100% 5 days a week. You absolutely, and that's not, first of all, that's not longevity. Secondly, even if you are going to say, all right, I can sustain that. At a certain point, all of those, those symptoms that we said before of like, I'm starting to not sleep well, I'm starting to feel sore all the time, those will just start happening because that shouldn't be the goal. We need to have regular deloads. We need to have regular active recovery days. We need to have conversational pace workouts where you say, no matter how I'm feeling today, even if I feel like a rock star, I'm not allowed to go over 60%. I'm at 60% today, regardless.
And honestly, I want to say it's a skill to find that. It's a
hard.
skill to find
Yeah.
60%, 70%, 80%. I was trying to do on Wednesdays is a percentage day for me, which is like a 70-ish percent. And I was like on the bike and I was like, where am I at right now? Is this 80%? What would 100% be? How would I dial it back? Sometimes you start like way overthinking it, but like it is a skill to find where 70%, maybe you're a runner, where 70% of your run is, where 80% of your run is, and kind of play around with that because like that's all very important parts of your training because you use that. For me, I use it in workouts, right? So like if it's a longer workout, I know I'm not going to start out the gate at 100%. I'm going to come out at maybe like a 75 and know I can sustain that for a really long period of time, but I have to know where that 75 is, or else you end up like most people on one of the open workouts, crash and burn.
It's an art.
It is.
It's an art. It takes a lot of practice, but you know what? It builds body awareness too.
It does.
So it's a really good skill to work on, even if you feel like you're sucking at it at first, being like, what's 50%? I don't know. Is this too slow? Is this too fast? Like, I'm the worst at this. It is building body awareness just for you to be aware and in your movement, in your body, in your breathing. It's a really good exercise. So you should be aiming to vary your intensities in your 5 days of training. And lastly, guys, the first place to look when you are considering the fact that you might be overtraining is your nutrition and your hydration. We cannot, in your sleep, we cannot say enough times how much enhanced your recovery can be just by those 3 things being in a good alignment. So if you aren't eating enough and you say like, well, I only work out 3 days a week, how could I be overtraining? I mean, that's not even, but you are in a severe caloric deficit every day, your body is going to act as if it's being overtrained. If you are like massively dehydrated because, you're taking your first sip of water at 3 p.m., I'm not saying that was me. I'm saying, I'm just going to reach for this real quick. You like that is going, you're going to pay for that. You need to, at some point, recognize the fact that that is going to come back and bite you in the ass. And the same thing with the sleep. So those 3 areas, enhanced, they can make it so that you can really, really have 5 beautiful days of training. And when they're in the trash can, 2 days of training is going to feel like too much.
It's too much. Well, here's the easiest thing to relate it to, right? If you want to drive your car only a couple miles, well, you only need a little bit of gas in the tank to do that, right? But if you just have a little bit of gas in the tank and you want to drive 30 miles or 5 days a week, and you're still looking at like the fuel that you have in your car, and you're still looking at, well, I only have enough fuel for 2 days a week. That's all that you have. So like if your nutrition is not on point and you can and you still try to drive your car too many miles, you're overtraining, right? Like you're overdoing it. You're going further than you have enough gas to go. So when it comes to nutrition, nutrient dense foods, you could be eating enough food, but not enough nutrient dense food, which is where you'll start to see your soreness increase, your sleep looks like shit, your energy levels all look like shit. So when you start to feel all of these like compounding effects, now you're feeling like super sore, you're having these aches and pains, I'm not sleeping well, and you're going into your training session and you say like, well, I'm training at night at 5:30 and I've had 1 meal today. That's not appropriate. That is not an appropriate amount of fuel to go into your training session. So I would say at that point, you need to dial it back for the night, realize that like whatever happened that day, but you have to show up with what you got, and you need to adjust your training accordingly.
I love the fact that, you know, every everything is in our control, but it's like that's hard news as well.
It's a gift and a curse.
It's a gift and a curse because, it's really hard to feel like you're in the driver's seat of everything because that's a freaking lot of responsibility. But I just want to really highlight the fact that, when it comes to overtraining, I just I want everybody to remember that, 2 days a week for 2 years is always going to be more effective than 6 days a week for 6 months. So, we're in this for the long game. Try not to get wrapped up in it's summertime, so now I need an overhaul. I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week and I'm going to spend 4 hours there. And,
or the flip side of that, it's summertime and I have stopped the commitment to myself. I'm stopped checking. Stopped cashing in the checks that I wrote to myself. That's why we go back to our previous episode. We write realistic checks that we can cash in, and we don't overdo it.
Get there and train,
balance,
and own your balance. And really, if you feel like you are exhibiting some of these symptoms, just look into, one area first. Commit to one thing at a time. Okay, I'm having these nagging injuries. I think I'm overtraining. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure 3 days a week that I'm eating nutrient dense meals that are, planned out and I really, they're prepped for me and I'm really going to stick to. Just go one thing at a time so that you're not overwhelmed.
Or add in your mobility. Super easy thing to add in that we just won't do. It's so easy, but so hard.
It's so hard.
Yeah, but Here's
Put on a
one of the things.
podcast.
Here's one
That's
of the
what I've
things
been
that
doing.
I've
Put
done.
on a podcast.
Put on a
and do.
podcast.
Well, I have to do my diastasis exercises, which I freaking hate. That's my
Which are-
mobility.
Yeah, which are
That's
super
my freaking
boring.
hate.
Yeah.
But I've now made an agreement with myself. I'll put on a podcast and I'll do them. And that is working for me right now. So
Yeah, because you have to itch that productivity scratch.
no, because I'm a freaking toddler and I need to make agreements with myself. Like, if you do this, you can have dessert. Like,
Yeah. You know what though? I have done this before for me too, as I've said in my training session. Well, if you're not going to figure out how to stretch at night, you're ending 10 to 15 minutes early and you're going to do it then. So I take away from like,
ooh, bad cop.
I know, I went like that. I'm like, you're either like you figure it out at night or taking it away from your training session, because you are not being productive if you are not moving well, and your overhead mobility has got to get better.
We're all working on it at different levels. Kelsey's working on not overtraining. I'm working on just getting there a couple days a week. But, you guys, we love you. Watch for these telltale signs and make sure you keep yourself in check, because if you don't, your body will tell you that you're getting back in check.
Keep score.
We love you.